Hey, welcome back to another bonus episode of the Friendly Atheist podcast. It's me, Jessica. I am here again with my husband, Mikey.
That's me.
That's you. We watched this evening. Oh, if you're just tuning in, we have been watching a series of movies about people being trapped or people being trapped together. So tonight, we had a Twitter poll that helped us decide between 4 Hitchcock movies. It was not Lifeboat, like Mikey very much wants. Nobody seems that impressed by Lifeboat, I guess.
It's a very, very good movie that I haven't seen in a very long time.
And what I keep
But it's an underrated classic of Hitchcock's that no one knows about.
And so what we should do is just watch it. But Mikey's very...
But I do this for you people.
There's 124 people potentially listening to this. So most of the people who vote... We probably have more people who vote.
Me.
We probably have more people who vote than will listen to this.
Well...
Good point. Didn't think of well. Okay, so we watched the the Hitchcock classic Rear Window, starring James Stewart.
James Stewart. He is credited as James Stewart.
And Grace Kelly. First thing to note, they play a couple. He is 21 years older than she is. She is 25. He is 46. Oh, Dottie came up with a treat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now
she's
looking around.
What to do with it.
Well, she's gonna find a place to hide it, like on top of a pillow. One of her classic hiding spots. It's funny that we watched this because my favorite murder this past week did how Grace Kelly died, which was obviously very tragic. She died in a car accident in the south of France. Also, apparently shrouded in mystery. Apparently, people think that she was part of some cult that faked her death. Anyway, my point is, Karen Kilgariff described her as if somebody drew a picture of a gorgeous person. Like, she's so unbelievably beautiful. It's unreal.
Mean, all of like Hitchcock's leading ladies
they're all blonde, strong-jawed,
very specific type. But
yeah.
And that was of that time, too. Everyone, the key to every leading lady was to make them look the same.
Yes, and I have some thoughts on how women are treated in this movie. Okay, so Mikey, before we jump into the synopsis, do you want to give your thoughts, your history? I know you're a big Hitchcock boy.
Yeah, I guess, sure. Yes, I love Alfred Hitchcock. He was... So, when I was young, I was a terrible student. Didn't care about anything, but, like, always had I always enjoyed movies. Like, I probably have some form of ADHD or something, but I never diagnosed anything. But the only thing that I could focus on was movies, and I enjoyed them a lot. And in the theater and stuff... while I was in school, there weren't really any film classes in high school. So I took theater classes, and when I graduated, I went to community college first and took a bunch of theater classes there, but then kind of realized, like, maybe I shouldn't take theater classes because a theater degree isn't going to get me anything but a film degree. Like, my thought was that at least a film degree, like, I learned something technical. That I wouldn't know. So I went to film school, and one of the first classes I took was I took the class at COD, at College DuPage. That was just, a class was the films of Alfred Hitchcock, and it was just talking about Hitchcock.
College DuPage is in kind of the western suburbs, like the community college.
Yeah.
Like, if you go to community college, you're likely
It's a community college, but it's like a giant community college. Like, I don't understand how it's even still a community college, technically. Like, it's just a closed college, but they had a Films of Alfred Hitchcock class that I took, and that's kind of really what catapulted me into being like, you know what, I think I want to not be an actor and would rather be more on the other side of the camera, because I was just fascinated by everything in that class. And Rear Window is up there as one of my top 3, probably.
All right, cool. So this is the second time I've seen Rear Window. The first time I saw it was in college. My friend Emily and I did a thing for a while that we tried to do all of the AFI top 100 movies at that time, which in hindsight, that was the first time I made an overly elaborate spreadsheet for some sort of list I was making, so it really says a lot about me. But yeah, this is one of the ones I watched. So this is my first time seeing it in, how old am I, 34? So 15 years probably. So do you want to give any context about the year, where Hitchcock's career was, anything like that?
What did we just figure? This was 54, 6?
Yeah, 54. Which is so much earlier than I thought.
Agreed. But this, if I'm not mistaken, is the first or one of the first in that, like, bang, 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 6.
Oh, he
went on like a 6-movie streak that was like
Dial M for Murder and something else. I was looking up the IMDb thing that he filmed like right on top of each other.
Yeah, but he went on a streak within like 10 years where he made 6 of his like most iconic movies.
Yeah, let's take a look at his filmography.
And this is in the very early stages of that.
So would you say it started with Rope maybe in 48?
No, Rope.
Later?
Rope was critically acclaimed, but not.
I like Rope a lot.
I do too.
So Strangers on a Train was 51.
And that's my favorite. That's my favorite Hitchcock movie. It's noteworthy, but it isn't like the big boys.
Right. So Dial M for Murder, Rear Window, and To Catch a Thief were all 54, 54, 55.
Okay.
And then Trouble with Harry is also 55. Man Who Knew Who Too Much, 56.
That put him back on. Trouble with Harry wasn't huge.
Yeah, I've never.
Man Who Knew Too Much was a big one. And then it goes into like...
Do you know why I really know The Man Who Knew Too Much?
Because of The Man Who Knew Too Little?
Correct. I've never seen it.
Not because Hitchcock made it twice?
Yeah, I actually did notice that, and I was confused.
Yeah, he remade his own film.
Well, he could do it better.
Yeah.
So then Vertigo is 58, North by Northwest 59,
Yeah.
Psycho 60.
Yep. And then
Birds was 63.
Yeah, but
Marnie 64.
That stretch up until the Birds, it's basically probably Dial M for Murder up until the Birds is 6 or 7 out of his top 10 most known films. And
Alfred Hitchcock Presents ran from 55 to 62. So that was kind of an underlying thing through all of these movies. And the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, I've never heard of that. 62 to 60. Oh, 60 a TV series 62 to 65. Oh, he directed one episode. Got it. I was like, The Birds, 1963, Marnie. I think those are the only ones I'm familiar with. Marnie, didn't we just watch Marnie?
Yeah.
Why did we watch? I mean,
because one of those cable networks that we had subscribed to for a while, like, dropped a bunch of them, and we just wanted to...
All I remember about the movie is she was riding a horse a lot.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. So, starting with the plot. Recuperating from a broken leg, adventuresome professional photographer L.B. Jeffries is confined to a wheelchair in his Greenwich Village apartment. Mikey went... These kinds of things always happen when I'm gone for a weekend. I came back after like a weekend trip, and Mikey had decorated his little movie room with a bunch of movie pictures from movies.
So we had I was cleaning out a closet, and we had a stack of like 10 picture frames. I was like, why? These are just sitting in a box. Let's do something with them. So I printed out, is there 6? I think 6 pictures from movies. Not like still frames from movies, but like a movie where the picture is shown in the movie. So one of the pictures I used is the picture that he takes right before he gets hit by a car to break his leg.
Yeah. Another one is from Back to the Future.
The Back to the Future. No, it's the first one. The Back to the Future one where it's like half missing his brother.
Yeah. Laura Palmer, obviously.
From
7, the picture of Brad Pitt.
Yeah, the picture of Brad Pitt that he takes of him on the stairs.
The Shining.
The picture at the end of The Shining.
That's all I can remember.
And the playbill picture from Waiting for Guffman. And I think
it's the fireman one.
It's when they do the backdraft play.
Oh my god, so good.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, it was just a fun thing to just do with those frames, and they're all lined up on a shelf. So it's always fun to see if and what people recognize.
Well, it would be if you ever invited people over to our home.
They're invited.
Are they?
Yeah.
Not by you.
Not right
though.
now.
Not by you.
Quarantine, stay away.
His rear window.
Mm-hmm.
It's always important to clap when somebody says the name of a movie in the movie. Mm-hmm. His rear window looks out into a courtyard and several other apartments. During a powerful heat wave, he watches his neighbors who keep their windows open to stay cool. That did take me a second to be like, do none of these people own blinds?
Yeah. I mean, and that's a stat, like I think it's the first person you see is the guy and his wife sleeping on the balcony.
Yeah, I don't think it's the first person you see, but that's when that was. So they kind of do this pan. So they have these people, they have all these characters that we never learn the names of except for the one that we're kind of focused on. So there's Miss Torso, who's a dancer. There's Miss Lonely Heart, who is single and crying constantly. More on that later. A newly married couple. A man and his infirmed wife. Mm-hmm. And a songwriter. And a woman with a dog.
Mm-hmm. That's the old lady. That's the same. Her and her husband.
She the one with the hearing aid?
Sleep. No, the lady with the dog and her husband are the one who sleeps on. They sleep on the balcony.
Oh, that was then. I assumed
that's the same because they're all the way up at the top, and then the newlyweds are the ones who shut the blinds, and you never see them except for when the guy pops out.
Oh yeah,
to like smoke a cigarette.
And there's a woman with I think the hearing aid. Is she the one with the dog too? Is that
no?
The same?
She just
comes out. Spoiler alert, the dog dies, which fucking sucks. And they showed it a lot. Like, it's kind of, it was, Mikey was saying that we need to train Dottie to do this, but she's too big and too dumb. This woman who has like a little, you don't know, maybe like a 15-pound little terrier dog, very cute dog. And she puts it in a basket from her third floor apartment and like, wheels the basket down like it's going down a well so it can go to the bathroom, and then it jumps back in and she wheels it back up, and that would be great, but that's not an option with our monstrous animal.
And the movie starts the same way a lot of Hitchcock movies start, where it's a static shot of something while the credits roll, and then as soon as the credits are done rolling, it pushes into something.
What did it push into?
Just out it's slowly the blinds are opening up, and then the credits are done rolling, and it pushes out into the courtyard, and then that's when you see the couple sleeping on the balcony. I think that's the first one you see, if I remember right.
I feel like we see the couple on the balcony like when he kind of dozes off at the window because it's 2 a.m. and it's at night that it rains, and that's why. But
you see them before that. You see it when the alarm goes off.
Oh,
that's the first,
I see
and the guy pops up and he's like, oh, and then the wife pops up on the other end of the bed, opposite direction, and it's like a fun little.
Oh bit. Yeah, you're right. All right, I'll get to that.
But it goes out into what is a absolutely fantastic set design.
So I was reading a little bit about this.
It was presumably in a giant soundstage.
Yeah, they had to blow out. So the ceiling was too low to get what they wanted to do. So
because they need 3 floors.
So they blew out the basement. Okay. So where his apartment is, so his apartment looks like it's about on the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
His apartment is actually on the ground floor, and they dug into the basement to get into the courtyard.
That makes sense.
It's all. It's all practical.
Because you have to have people need room to move around within their apartment, so it has to be a practical set.
Right. So what I was reading was almost all of the shots took place either in Jeff, and he goes by Jeff.
Everything is shot from within his apartment.
Right, except for there's like 2 shots that aren't, and one's like when he falls out the window. Spoilers.
But that's all after everything happens. Anyway.
But so, because everything was filmed either within his apartment when it's him talking to his nurse or his girlfriend, or him watching the other people, Alfred, what's she doing?
She's just throwing a bully stick around and it hit her in the head. She's very confused.
So dumb. Hitchcock would spend all of his time in Jeff's apartment, and all of the actors had little earpieces in, so they could hear. So they could hear his direction. So they'd just like fucking hang out there. Apparently, like the woman who played the dancer would just hang out there when she wasn't on, because they were all functioning apartments. They had running water,
and there you can see that. And then there's a lot of scenes that are facing or that are of, you know, the people in his apartment, but you can still see in the background a window. So people are moving around back there. Like life didn't stop for this, which is part of what makes it seem realistic.
He observes a flamboyant dancer he nicknames Miss Torso, a single woman he calls Miss Lonely Hearts, a talented singer, composer, pianist, several married couples, one of them newlyweds, a female sculptor, and
It's a dishwasher again.
Oh, it's a dishwasher? I thought it was the Roomba. We have a lot of things that play songs at us. And Lars Thorwald, a traveling jewelry salesman with a bedridden wife. So yeah, he's just sort of shown sitting in his apartment, just like watching it like one would watch TV.
Well, and they introduce him really, really well too, which they come in on his face with the beads of sweat rolling down, and they kind of pan down to his leg where you see he's in a
cast from his hip.
Yeah, all the way from his hip on his entire left leg. And then it pulls up from there to see a smashed camera body, like a big, like large format camera body just shattered. And then up from that to a photograph of a race car crumbling and like a tire flying off that looks to be 5 feet in front of him, which is just an absolute primo example of show don't tell. You didn't need to, because I'm a photographer and I took that picture of the race car right before it hit me.
Yeah.
You can put all those pieces together and be like, oh, he got hit by this car but still got the shot because he's a photographer who puts himself in dangerous situations.
Right. So we kind of open to him talking on the phone to his agent, and he's telling the agent that he's got 1 week left in the cast. And then he does a little more exposition on what happened. And then he starts talking about, so he hangs up. His agent says, I have this cool gig for you. And he's like, well, I can't move. And he's like, his agent's like, all right, sorry, dude. Or his editor, I guess. And then my favorite character in this movie, the nurse, her name is Stella is the nurse's name. She's played by Thelma Ritter, who is a peach. Like, just a really...
Of any relation to the rest of the Ritters? I've never looked into that.
Unclear. I will do some research if you want to talk about her character and why she's so great.
No, she's just a great, snarky, but not for, like, a full comic relief way. Like, just in a very honest, real way, but, like, is the only real guiding force in his life. It seems like all he's ever cared about was his career and what he does, and like he's like, if this were made now, he'd be like an adrenaline junkie or something.
Yeah,
you know, like she's kind of the grounding force in his life, which I think is interesting, and adds to her character quite a bit. If you can't find it,
yeah, fine. I don't see anything, but she's
just a thought.
She died in 1969. I guess she was 66. She comes in. She's a wonderful character, and at some point and I cannot remember if it's the phone call. So I think it's the phone call with his editor, his agent, who he talks about getting married, and it's just one of those. So we're kind of teed up with this character of it's James Stewart, who is a 40-something guy, and they talk about his girlfriend before she shows up, who ends up being Grace Kelly. And he somebody is like, yeah, once you get married, it's all laundry machines and disposals and taking the garbage out. And I'm like, isn't that just your life? Like, it's this weird thing about, like, once you get married,
Well,
you have to, like, clean the house sometimes.
It's the fear of settling down.
Yeah.
It's the, you can't live this flamboyant lifestyle of traveling the world and taking exotic pictures in crazy locations.
Yeah,
You get married and all of a sudden now you have worries and cares and things you have to take care of. So now you lose that. Which
is fair, but that's super not how they put it in the movie. It was literally just like, once you get married, you got a nagging wife and a laundry machine running. And it's like, I mean, I guess. Don't you do laundry, Jimmy Stewart? Is that not your...
I mean, not then.
I guess they did...
I mean, like, it's the 50s.
Dry cleaning wasn't a thing.
But, like, someone did, like...
They cleaned their clothes.
I mean, he's the type of... He probably has, like, assistants and stuff. Like... It's, I mean, it was just, I don't know. I think that was just very typical of the mid-1950s.
Yeah, which is understandable, but I just think it's a funny thing of, like, that's the worst part about getting married is, like, you have to clean.
But I think it also sets up this juxtaposition where early on you think he's, like, insecure or self-loathing or doesn't think he's good enough to get married. It sets up this, like, he's so afraid of commitment and then kind of turns that on his head later when he is discussing it with her and is saying, like, you're the person I do love. You're not cut out for my life. Yeah. I don't want to get married because I don't want to ruin your life. Like, it isn't a personal thing. And I think the juxtaposition, and, like, that's his everyday conflict, I think, is that he is in love with this woman, but she's a beauty queen and, like,
a socialite.
Yeah, and he you know,
she's in fashion. She talks about
he can't bring her into, like, you know, places where he doesn't bathe for a week at a time, and like there's this constant struggle with, like, yes, I love this person, but I also love my life. Right. What's going to change if I bring these things together?
Which was so, and then I think I kind of skipped over that they Jeff's sophisticated, beautiful socialite girlfriend, Lisa Fremont, visits him regularly, as does his his insurance company nurse. It's not even, like, his personal nurse. Stella wants Jeff to settle down and marry Lisa, but Jeff is reluctant. So we're introduced to Grace Kelly, what's her name, Lisa Fremont's character, who's a picture. Like, that dress she's wearing in the beginning is perfection. And maybe, I mean, obviously I'm always looking through everything through, like, an annoying feminist lens, because that's just how I have to see the world. But I think it's really an interesting trope in movies that we walk in and we see this, like, beauty who is bringing him dinner and trying to take care of him, doing whatever, and he's just kind of being like, and I think it's really interesting that, and this something you and I have talked about character development, of, like, why should I care about this character? And to me, sometimes that's kind of spun into, like, okay, we understand they're a couple, and she's presented as this, like, beauty, this kind person. Why is she into him? Because the first interactions we see with them are him being like, I don't like you and I don't want to be near you. And they do nothing to establish, like, any intimacy in their relationship. I
mean, I would flip that around and say she's pretty and has no character until 3/4 of the way through the movie.
But they
you know what I mean? Why do I care about
that
her?
She's, like, brought him dinner and is, like, trying to care and tips the guy well. Like, they at least demonstrate that she's a fundamentally decent person.
I think that's what I was just saying a moment ago about the juxtaposition of, they set it up like he's got these walls up, and I think that's what you're supposed to see. He's still charming. He's still very winning, but he's got these walls up. Yeah, and I think that's when it turns around, is a little bit later when you find out it's that he doesn't want to put her in harm's way or change her lifestyle.
Sure. And no, I just think I would be really curious to go back and look at, like, this 50s, 60s, 70s era movies and see how often they present a couple, and I'm just curious how often they make it clear, like, this is what she sees in him, as opposed to, like, she's presented as, like, a beauty or a trophy to be won or whatever, but what is her agency in it? Like, why does she want to be with this person? And I feel like that's often not shown in stories.
Yeah, I think it is in this though. You don't think so at all? I think he's he's incredibly good looking too. You don't think so? Oh, I think so.
No, not my. Yeah, I don't get it. Like,
I think
to me, he's very ordinary looking.
Oh, wow, that's surprising. I think Jimmy Stewart is incredibly handsome.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Grace
Kelly level handsome.
She's a princess. I think James Stewart is much more attractive than Grace. I think Grace Kelly is boring. Like, she's pretty, but she's just kind of boring. Huh. Like, she's cookie cutter beautiful, and I think
maybe that's what I'm missing.
James Stewart is very winning and charming, and he's. I think Jimmy Stewart is like in your like Tom Cruise world of like Tom Cruise might not be the most. He's not Brad Pitt.
Right, he's not the
but
best.
He's pretty attractive looking guy. But yes, he's very charming, even if he's a horrible human.
Oh, he's a sociopath, or a psychopath.
But he's a charming person, and he's witty, and he's sarcastic, and all of that. I think is the and I think it's an opposites attract situation. She's into the fact that he's not the boring false socialites that she surrounds herself with all the time. I get. And then that goes on for him to fall in love with her as she gets more and more adventurous throughout the film, and he realizes, what am I protecting her from? She's just as brave as I am.
Okay, all right, I will give you that.
Really and truly, at its core, this is a love story.
Yes, and I think they do I think the story is very interesting in how it shows that that she's capable of keeping up with his lifestyle, whereas he's kind of treating her with kid gloves because of his perception of her as a socialite. I think my thing is I just grew up on like 80s and 90s movies where like the male lead was Gary Busey, who is bringing nothing to the table, and we're just like, yeah, he's our male lead, I guess. He's got a blonde mustache. Who doesn't like a blonde mustache?
Yeah,
and so I guess in my head, I'm just so used to being like, here's my default male lead. He doesn't need to earn anybody. He just needs to fucking exist. And I was going to say Edie Falco, but oh my God, from Green Card. 80. Not Adie Bryant. No, the woman with the hair.
Oh, Annie McDowell?
Annie McDowell. Like some Annie McDowell person is going to fall in love with a Gary Busey type because he...
I think they match, but...
Gary Busey and Annie McDowell?
Young Gary Busey? Young Gary Busey's not an ugly man.
Describe my face.
Super hot. But no, I think this movie is about those things. Like, there's tidbits of a relationship there, but because they go home, like, they leave these separate lives, like, they're not complete, and neither of them is perfect without each other. Like, the things that they are with each other complement each other in a perfect way. And I think that's what this movie is about.
I have a question. Since you grew up in the 1950s, that whole thing about she's going to stay the night, and they're like, does your landlord know? And I thought it was a joke. And then the police officer came in and is like, does your landlord know? I was like, ew, does your landlord need to know if you're having a person? Is it like the dorms?
I think it was, I think they were suggesting that it was more than the night. She was
like moving in.
She was going to live there.
But regardless, yeah, I guess.
And this was the first step of that.
Sure. Okay, that's fair. But just the way they said it, I was like, oh my God, in the 50s, did they need to like alert their landlord if they're having an over?
23 skidoo. That was probably a little too early.
No. It's from your childhood when you grew up playing stick hoop.
I played the trumpet too, apparently.
You're a very good mouth trumpeter, which is a thing also Leah is good at, and I'm not.
Sorry?
Yeah. I feel like I missed a lot of vibrato. It's really good.
That was the saxophone, though.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it was a muted trumpet.
No, it was a saxophone.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
It was like an alto or a tenor sax.
Sure. God, not an alto sax.
Don't want to get that wrong.
What an idiot.
Alto song, it would have been a lot,
A lot what, Michael?
Higher.
An alto sax versus a...
tenor sax.
I don't think a tenor sax is a thing. I think you're thinking of soprano.
Tenor sax is like the main
soprano sax. No, that's what Kenny G plays. I'm gonna look up saxophones.
A tenor sax is like the Lisa Simpson saxophone.
She plays an alto sax.
I don't think so.
Lisa Simpson saxophone.
I don't think you're gonna find. Oh, will you maybe look up saxophone? That might help.
Saxophone.
This is a derailment, though. We should probably talk about this movie.
I think I'm just going to go ahead and keep looking this up. Oh, it's a baritone sax, formerly alto sax. Never a tenor. Let me see what a tenor sax is.
Tenor sax is the basic one. I thought that's
Yeah, I think so too, but she doesn't play that.
She also does, like, if it's a barisax, it's tiny.
A barisax?
Baritone sax. A barisax. Those are, like, really long, and they come forward and then go up and then back down.
Yeah, that's what hers looks like.
But it's much, much smaller. Like, a barisax is, like, this big.
You keep saying barisax. You weren't in band. How do you know what a barisax is?
I was huge into ska.
You're tone
You know
deaf.
that.
Oh, God, you
know
were
I
into
was
ska.
like I was all about the horn section.
Fuck. Yeah, this is what her saxophone looked like. Like, look how far it comes up. Like, see the little loop-de-loop that it does? That's not a tenor sax. A tenor sax just goes like a treble clef, kind of. I forget you were into ska.
Alfred Hitchcock would be so proud of us right now.
What would you say, Michael, your favorite check-marked patterned item of clothing was when you were into ska? Would you say it was your belt or your Vans or your vest?
I never owned check Vans.
Really?
Yeah.
That shocks me. That genuinely shook me to my soul. Like, when I imagine a young Mikey, I imagine him in check Vans. Or, those shoes that were like your grandpa's or whatever.
Like wingtips?
Wingtips, but with a thick sole.
No, I had like real wingtips.
Oh, okay.
I had a great pair of two-tone black-white wingtips that were just like real wingtip shoes.
But did they have like a thick...
No, they were dress shoes where they were like...
I'm trying to think. I thought you used to have a pair of like 20s style shoes that had like a really solid sole that looked they weighed 20 pounds each.
I had a pair of Doc Martens that were...
Oh, maybe that's... Were they two-toned?
They were like a brown and a dark brown wingtips.
Oh, that must be what I'm thinking of. But so I imagine you in those and, and some like wide pants. And I want to be clear, I did not know Mikey and his ska phase. So this is really like wide-legged pants, like the bottom of a zoot suit. And Mikey was like a skinny little guy back in the day. And a wife beater tucked into the big pants with suspenders and like a fedora.
I'll stop you right there. First of all, I could not pull off a A-frame shirt or A-shirts or whatever.
Why?
Because I was way too skinny.
When do you think you...
And
do you think you crossed the threshold from being too skinny for an A-frame shirt to be too fat?
Suspenders weren't a thing.
They weren't?
They're called braces.
Fuck you! How dare you!
And to answer your question, yes, I had black and white checked skinny braces.
Skinny braces.
Like they were like maybe an inch wide.
Oof. That's quite a look.
That was awesome.
So one of my favorite fun facts about not fun facts, but just like thing. Was that Scott?
Yeah. Pick it up. Come on.
Get up.
Come on, Rudy.
Oh my! I don't know. We might have talked.
On?
No, absolutely never. This is where we're going to spend the rest of my life. Did you say on this podcast that you were like the dancer in a ska band, or what's that called? A skanker.
I was for this instance. I was the Sly Dog.
Sly Dog.
Yeah, because the band was called Sammy Sly Dog and the Latin Brass.
Christ. Okay, Latin brass.
Yeah.
Were there any?
No,
okay.
Of course not.
All white guys.
Oh, of course.
Sometimes I wonder if we had been. The thing with Mikey is when was Scott? Was Scott college age?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Oh, early high school.
Early high school?
Oh, yeah.
I thought high school was when you were in, like, the Jenko jeans and the big baggy t-shirts that you're still wearing because they fit you now like a human.
It depends on what I was doing. I was fucking... I just did whatever the fuck
like
I wanted. Yeah.
Fucking like the water, man.
I was fucking... You know how... Yeah, like she's like the wind. Like Patrick Swayze, how he was just saying that. He was talking about me. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
Hey, we do need to get back to this.
Yeah, there you go. For fuck's sake.
She's like the wind. Did I ever tell you what mine and Amy's go-to karaoke song was in college? We used to karaoke every Thursday at the Chug in Muncie, Indiana. We used to sing "Time of My Life" every Thursday, and we had a little dance that we did like rainbow hands, but together. It was really popular, and a lot of women hit on me after that for some reason. I had a vibe. Okay, Jeff, we're not even like significantly into the first act. All right, Jeff. Okay, one night during a thunderstorm, Jeff hears a woman scream, "Don't!" and then the sound of breaking glass. Did they ever establish what glass broke?
No, just something in the apartment.
I do like that idea, though, in movies, like shorthand for something is just glass breaking, even if you don't see it. It's like...
Well, because it's loud.
Well, it's very distinctive sound.
It's loud and reasonable. Like, you don't need
reasonable.
It's reasonably explained away. Like, it wasn't a gunshot. It wasn't like,
sure.
Like, you hear someone choking or being straight. Like, it could have been anything.
Later, he's awakened by thunder and observes Thorwald. So this is the guy with the bedridden wife. Thorwald leaving his apartment. Thorwald makes repeated late-night trips carrying out his sample case. The next morning, Jeff notices that Thorwald's... I really don't like that name. It doesn't roll off the tongue. Thorwald's wife is...
Colin Raymond Burr.
Is that the actor?
Mm-hmm.
Is he a well-known actor?
He was.
Is he related to Aaron Burr?
Mm-hmm.
I almost said Alexander Burr, and I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself.
See, and you could have gotten away with not saying that part.
If it wasn't for you meddling kids. Am I fun to be married to?
Mm-hmm.
Mike, you can't see, but Mikey burst a blood vessel when he said that.
This shirt is not comfortable.
I'm so sorry. You're the love of my life. That color looks like shit on you. Mikey's wearing a high... So, this is... Oh, take off your shirt. Take off your shirt. I'm recording this maybe, 5 hours after I recorded the episode with Hemin, in which I yell a lot. I'm pretty mad at Republicans right now. I think fairly so. And in that episode, a listener, if you guys listen, you might have heard me cackle for 25 minutes at the fact that there's a Whitesburg, Kentucky. I don't remember the context or why I thought it was so funny, but it sure fucking was. And so a listener lives there, listened to it with their daughter, by the way, and they really delighted, and then sent me 2 shirts. One is this, you can find it on Twitter. I'm at Blueberry, BLUEBURIE, and it is April 3rd. And I just posted it. One is this dope royal blue shirt with an outline of Kentucks, and it says Whitesburg. And I assume a star where Whitesburg is, or just a star. And the other one is highlighter pink, and it has a nonsensical Bible verse on it that I've read many times and cannot parse. And Mikey put that on, and boy, oh boy, I love you, baby, but highlighter pink ain't your color. Anyway, he's wearing his Gleaming the Cube shirt now, which is much more on brand.
Yeah.
Is Gleaming the Cube a...
Awesome. Yes.
I was going to say a movie where people are trapped someplace, so we can watch it for this. But I don't think it is.
I mean, his friend
Honey.
lives in a little like bunker thing underground.
If you start with I'm not gonna.
But where they say the titular line is underground and like a little bunker thing.
Well, Mikey, this quarantine is going to go on
So
for the
there's
foreseeable
that.
future, so there's no limit to the number of movies that will escape it. Okay. Oof, God, haven't even gotten to anything in this movie. Let's keep going. Do you want to talk more about Scott, though? No, he's saying no with his eyes. You can't see it, and it's not good podcasting, Michael. Thorwald makes repeated blah, 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 blah. So Jeff notices that Thorwald's wife is gone and then sees Thorwald cleaning a large knife and handsaw. Later, Thorwald ties a large trunk and heavy rope and has moving men haul it away. Jeff discusses all of this with Lisa and Stella. So Lisa's girlfriend, Stella, is his nurse. Stella is the star of this movie. Jeff becomes convinced that Thorwald has murdered his wife. He explains this to his friend Tom Doyle, who's a New York City police detective, and asks him to do some research. Doyle finds nothing suspicious, apparently. And apparently Mrs. Thorwald is a porch pirate steals... Oh, my God. I just got an NBC alert. Somebody's stealing masks. Cool. Cool, Chicago. Doyle finds nothing suspicious. Apparently Mrs. Thorwald is upstate and picked up the trunk herself. Case closed. And that's the end of the movie. What did you think about it, Michael? That was me making a... Woof. I hope you guys can hear Dottie making noise, because otherwise we just once in a while stop talking. Okay, so this kind of skips around because the next thing is about how the dog dies. I feel like there's like 45 minutes of film missing there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of just watching and seeing all the way the neighbors and stuff all interact, and like setting up this back and forth with Jeff and Doyle about like to make you like they do a really, really good job of, if this is your first viewing, is he just stir crazy
Daddy.
and in the middle of a heat wave and losing his mind and just piecing things
Word.
together, or did something actually happen? And they do a good job of really going back and forth on
for
that
sure.
and setting up a movie that could go either way.
And I was saying we were an hour into the movie, and I was like, I haven't seen this since I was probably a sophomore in college, and I do not remember how it ends at all.
Mm-hmm.
Dottie, what are you barking
She's
at?
fine.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, no, they didn't interest you. And the cop plays it really well of like, you're being absolutely absurd.
But also it does a realistic way. He's actually, oddly enough, one of the best cops ever portrayed in a Hitchcock movie.
Because he did his
Hitchcock
job.
famously makes cops terrible. And
hear me out, makes them realistic.
They're bad in most movies, but he does a good job of like, he at least acknowledge, like he's like, all right, I understand how can be mysterious. I'm intrigued, but that doesn't mean he murdered his wife.
Well, and I think
let's not jump to that level yet.
Right.
Like, which I think is an approach instead of like, no, he isn't just like out the gate. No, that's ridiculous.
I'll
Don't
look
be
into
absurd.
it. I'll see.
And he does. He does his due diligence. He looks into things.
So hi.
I don't know where they got the information that it was picked up. I don't know where they were getting that information.
I will say one.
Yeah.
Actually, I was just reading my notes, and when I was talking about how they didn't really establish why Grace Kelly would want to be with him, there's a couple lines that I would like to read to you. So they're listening to a composer writing on his piano across the courtyard, and it's like a beautiful, lovely, romantic song. And she says it's like he's writing the song for us. And then Jimmy Stewart says, explains why he's having so much trouble. You know, like a really nice boyfriend would say.
I mean, you and I talk that way to each other. It's just sarcastic. It's just
but if
fun
somebody
banter.
asked if you wanted to marry me, you wouldn't be like, fuck that, no, absolutely not.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's much, much more lighthearted than you took any of it.
Did it go in?
No.
Oh.
It's like 4 feet away.
I just tried to do a cool throw paper over my shoulder thing. I do this whenever I finish my page of notes with Hemet. I try to throw it in. I usually don't do a cool over the shoulder thing, but I was feeling really confident in myself.
I don't know why.
Anyway, okay. So we see this woman lowering her dog into the garden, which is adorable. And then it starts digging into this little flower. So there's like this little flower bed that's maybe a foot deep and 6 feet wide. And it's just got...
It's like... Yeah, something like that. It's just like a strip.
Yeah. And they show the dog kind of digging in there. And the dude, who may or may not be a murderer, is like, nah, get out of here. Because, he's a villain because he doesn't like dogs. And only villains don't like dogs. Besides Emmett. Listen, jury's still out on Emmett.
Yeah, I don't know.
So soon after, a neighbor's dog is found dead with its neck broken. The dog's owner yells across the courtyard, complaining of her neighbor's callous disregard of others. All the neighbors run to their windows to see what's happening, except for Thorwald, whose cigar can be, let's talk about these, can be seen glowing as he sits quietly in his dark apartment. You loved these shots.
They're great. Like, there's just something about, like, all this hustle and bustle, and then one room that's black.
Pitch black.
And then in the center of it, you see the match strike, so it lights it's just bright enough to light his face, and then he lights a pipe. Mm-hmm. Is it a cigar? I
think it's a cigar.
Okay. All you see is the light, the flash of the match, so it brightens up his face, and then you just see this like glowing orb. Mm-hmm. And it is just a great...
It reminds you that he's there.
It reminds you that he's... But the key is you can't see where he's looking. Mm-hmm. So he could just have it and he's looking off somewhere else, or he's looking directly at you. You being Jimmy Stewart.
Right. And there's this contrast between there's so much life happening in all of the other... Mm-hmm. Every apartment. There's the girl dancing. There's the guy playing piano. There's the woman who's trying to date, which we'll talk about later. And then this one dark...
But what I find most interesting about it is... turn that around, and that's exactly what Jimmy Stewart's room looks like to everybody else. Because he's sitting there. There's a great shot of him, too, when he's got the binoculars out, where he looks up and then kind of does a look over his shoulder like, oh, shit, it's really bright in here, and then slowly moves the wheelchair back like a foot, and he just rolls right back into a shadow.
Yeah.
And then puts the binoculars back up because...
He doesn't want to be seen.
Yeah, he doesn't want... And so he's doing the exact same thing. He's just sitting in a dark room staring at everybody. And it would lend you to believe that, like, they could be making the same assessments about him.
Right.
It's just, I think it's a great back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Certain that Thorwald is also guilty of killing the dog, Jeff, because he says when she because the woman screams about her dog missing, her dog being killed, which is, I would say, an underreaction. I would have, oh my God, Dottie, don't get strangled, okay? She is too big. But he says, everybody came out to see what all the fuss was about, why this woman was screaming about her dead dog, except for Thurwood. Mm-hmm. And that's in his mind, that's because he killed it, so he's not surprised and doesn't want to see what's going on. He knows what happened. I'm curious if they talk... Can we talk a little bit about Ms. Lonelyheart? Because I'm kind of obsessed with her character.
She's great. And I think everybody in it has some...
Every kind of quote-unquote bit character, which...
Yeah,
and the neighbors.
Yeah, any of the neighbors, like... I mean, there's a lot of... Are they reflections of him or what could be?
I think so.
Or both him and Lisa, like... If they don't get married, does she end up like Miss Lonelyhearts? And is that going through his mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be...
But if they get married, they could be like the newlywed couple who's just doing it all the time.
Or the guy who may or may not have murdered his wife.
Right. Like, all of these things, I think, are what's going through his mind.
What I think a lot... what I like a lot about it is it's very obvious projection on his part. Because we don't know... We never hear from these people, really... We never, like, physically, they're never audible. We just see them from these kind of vignettes from 100, 200 feet away. And he sort of pins these assumptions on people. Mm-hmm. So Ms. Torso, he calls, is just like a woman who's dancing in her apartment and, like, buttering toast and dancing and, like, genuinely, to me, seems like the happiest character. Mm-hmm. Like, she's just living her fucking, like, she has parties sometimes and she smooches some boys and, like, whatever, like, she's just young and gorgeous and dancing and feeling herself, and he kind of has this sort of, like, disdain for her that I read, which maybe I'm projecting on him, but the fact that he calls her Miss Torso made me feel uncomfortable. And I assume it's because she's wearing kind of like a sports bra and, like, high-waisted.
It's, you constantly see her torso.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, it's
but,
always
like, why
exposed.
would you be, like, Miss Dancer or whatever? It's just
I think, a clever name.
Is it clever?
I mean,
I wouldn't call it clever.
Miss Dancer isn't.
I'm not saying it is, but Miss Torso is just like, there's a like, I would call you Mr. Arms because I can see your arms.
Yeah,
got you fucking roasted.
But people in the 1950s didn't show their torso.
That's not true because they
I mean,
showed
not-
that the woman with the hearing aid, she was wearing like a sports bra and high-waisted things. And she had like a Jessica body. She was like old chubster and working herself out. I really liked it. Anyway, the point is, but he just seemed to have this sort of disdain for this woman who, maybe it's just my point of view, is like this sort of carefree woman who's dancing in her apartment.
I would say more so she's the current reflection of Lisa. Mm-hmm. And he sees her as this person who's just happy-go-lucky, but is just beautiful but
carefree.
Seems superficial.
Sure.
And I think he hasn't tried to get to the depth of what Lisa is, and so he sees her as the same thing.
That's fair. And then we have Ms. Lonely Heart, she's always wearing like an emerald green dress. And she's probably 30-something, 40-something? I'm not great at judging ages.
I would say older than that.
Really?
I would say mid-40s.
Oh, okay. And they show her, so he calls her Miss Lonely Heart.
Because I think
she's
getting into that old maid age,
sure.
and that's why she's so depressed.
And like she'll sit down to dinner and have it like set up for two, kind of, and pour herself wine and just like.
And she's like having full-on pantomime conversations with.
Yes.
Yeah. Pretending someone else is there.
Which is one of those things, like it's really sad. In my head, when I would see something like that, I'm like, oh, she just dealt with like a tragic loss or something happened. But he's just like, well, she's single, and single women are all sad, which is whatever. Like neither interpretation is necessarily correct. But at one point she finally gets a date. She brings this date home, and we're all like, oh, good for Miss Lonely Heart. All of her problems are solved.
And a date who's significantly younger.
Significantly younger, very handsome. And he, like, immediately sexually assaults her, and she throws him out. So, I don't know what I'm supposed to take away from that. She was so desperate, it was a gigolo? Or just, she's so vulnerable she can be taken advantage of?
I think it was her desperation to find this guy and bring him home or whatever. But then also, like, she fights him off because she actually cares about herself.
Yeah.
Like deep down, she isn't as miserable as she thinks she is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I liked.
And I think
I didn't like that they had to show her getting sexually assaulted.
Yeah, but also,
that. But it's also the 50s.
But also, she gets this incredible bout of strength during that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that needs to be the reason for it or whatever, but then, I don't know.
Yeah, I think just in my head, when I see these particular two women, I see them as two human beings who are sort of defined by the men they do or do not associate with, which I'm not over the moon about. Like, Ms. Lonely Heart, by her name alone, is defined by the fact that she's single.
Opposite ends of the courtyard. Third floor,
Yes.
First floor,
Yes.
far end. Like,
Yes.
these two
Different
are polar
looking.
opposites.
I mean, they're both white, obviously. But, like, yeah. But they both seem to be defined by especially Ms. Lonely Heart, defined by the men or lack thereof in her life, which, whatever. Okay, well, rear window. I lost it. Okay. Okay. Certain that Thorwald is also guilty of killing the dog. Jeff asks Lisa, Grace Kelly, to slip an accusatory note under his door so Jeff can watch his reaction when he reads it. And it said, "What did you do with her?"
Said, what happened to her? No. What did you do with her?
That's what I just said.
Is it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry.
So he can watch his reaction, and so he reads it and kind of like looks around, like that dog from The Simpsons. Is that a relatable reference?
Just, yeah.
Then, as a pretext to get Thorwald out of his apartment, Jeff telephones him and arranges a meeting at a bar. So he calls him, and he's like, "Did you get my note?" Which is it kind of made me think of how you always criticize Christian Bale as Batman because Christian Bale has like the most distinctive mouth of any human, and Jimmy Stewart is calling this guy like, "Well, did you get my note?" Like he's.
I want you to meet me at the old building and loan.
And he's just like, can you hear me? Can you? Oh, I don't think I have a good Jimmy Stewart in the can. You do yours again. Say meet me at a bar.
Why don't you just meet me at the bar? I want to find out what happened to her.
That's pretty good. I don't think I knew you had such a good Jimmy Stewart.
I didn't know that either.
And I want to be clear, I've only seen 2 Jimmy Stewart movies, so let's not pretend I
And also, he doesn't do that, like,
Stutter?
stuttery thing in this at all, but, like, famously does in a lot of other things.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little... But anyway, that's
that.
That's my Jimmy.
Excuse me. Sorry, that just really made me giggle. Jeff telephones and he believes Thorwald buried something incriminating in the courtyard flower bed and killed the dog to stop it digging there. So when Thorwald leaves, Lisa and Stella dig up the flowers. They find nothing, which was sort of a bummer. Like it really straight up bummed me out. Why did he kill the dog then?
They explain that. He did bury something there and then moved it while he was asleep. But it was presumably the knife and the hacksaw.
Oh yeah.
But it's also part of this whole, like, you think this movie is going on this route where they're just going to find more and more clues, but then it keeps turning out that they don't. And so it adds to this flip-flop nature of, like, anything can happen. Is this guy insane, or is there, like, legitimately, a murder happening across the courtyard?
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite movie tropes is not a whodunit, but was there even a murder in the first place?
Yeah.
Because I think that's really interesting, because it's more interesting than, like, not more interesting, but interesting in different ways of we're not putting together the clues and figure out who done it. It's like, is this person just gone, or is this person murdered somewhere? And it's, I mean, as a true crime person, it's 20,000 times harder to prove a crime if you don't have a body, so.
And also, like, by them not finding anything there, that's the catalyst for her to go take it even further.
Yes.
And she climbs into his apartment.
Which I thought was dope as hell.
That's the moment where that's the moment where he realizes, like, oh, she's not who I thought she was.
Yeah, she's...
Or, like, who I let her be. Like, there's so much more to her than I never considered.
Yeah, and I think he tries to keep her in her box because that's who he thinks
Right.
she is, and he thinks that would keep her happy.
Yeah.
I loved this scene. So Grace Kelly, when she's not in lingerie, she is always in, like, full-on cocktail wear, which I'm in. Like, her wardrobe was...
She wears that green, like, borderline suit.
Loved that.
And then she takes the jacket off, and it's like
that
tank top.
Oh my god, it was a halter top with, like, a cross. God, gorgeous. She's perfect. She's a vision. She's a princess. But so they have what's his face out of the house. They think gonna be for a minute. So she, like, just monkey climbs up the fire escape. I don't even know how she got up there. And in her cocktail gown is like a more elaborate gown than my wedding dress. She climbs up 2 stories of a fire escape and then, like, jimmies over to the second window and hops in and is like, I'm here. I did it. Finally. My kitten heels were good use. They gave me the lift I needed to get up that fire escape. So that was very cool. Much to Jeff's amazement and admiration, Lisa then climbs to the fire escape to Thorwald's apartment and clambers in through an open window. That's a great
way to say that.
Clambers is great.
Well, I meant amazement and admiration.
Oh, I like
because I think that's the moment he genuinely falls in love with her.
When Thorwald returns and grabs Lisa, Jeff calls the police. But he calls the police as soon as he realizes Thorwald is coming back. And even before he finds her, he says there's a man assaulting a woman.
he calls the police initially because Mrs. Lonely Hearts is about to take a shitload of pills.
I forgot about that
And
part.
then as that's happening, the phone is connecting, and that's when he but that's the distraction he has, so that's why he didn't see him coming back.
Oh.
So he's already on the phone with the police, or like it's connecting, and then he looks up and realizes he's right outside the door, so he changes what he's
Gotcha.
relaying to the police.
They arrive just in time to save Lisa by arresting her. Jeff sees Lisa has her hands behind her back, wiggling her finger with Mrs. Thornwald's wedding ring on it. Thornwald notices this, and realizing that she was signaling somebody, he sees Jeff across the courtyard. Jeff phones Doyle, so that's the cop from earlier, and leaves an urgent message. Stella heads for the police station to post bail for Lisa, which is, I don't know why I care about this, but it's such a wild moment where he's like, you have to go bail her out. It's first-time burglary. That's going to be $250. Here's some cash. I was like, what is your life that you had that locked and loaded? Not just like, here's $500, whatever it takes. It's like, here's what she's going to be in for. Here's how much it costs. Trust me, I know. Here's $250. Oops. Jeff phones Doyle, leaves her. Stella heads to the police station. But when his phone rings, Jeff assumes it's Doyle and says that the suspect has left the apartment. When no one answers, Jeff realizes that Thorwald himself had called and is heading over to confront him. When Thorwald enters, Jeff repeatedly sets off his. They teed up the flash bulbs because he said when he's coming back, I'll warn you with the flash bulbs.
Flash.
And so he has those ready to go. And we were talking about those are the old school ones that are like,
I love it,
one and done. Mm-hmm. Did they have a name?
Just flash bulbs.
Just flash bulbs. Jeff repeatedly sets off his camera flash bulbs, temporarily blinding him. I will say, when I was reading the IMDb trivia, apparently so they do like a kind of special effects thing where they show it from the POV of Thorwald when he's getting the thing flash.
Bright light flash, yeah.
And I guess
Well, no, they show when you see the light flash, you're on Jeff's point of view.
Yes, but they show from after it goes off.
Then they show him. He grabs his glasses, and then the dissipating bright red spot that goes away. And
originally, according to IMDb, Hitchcock had wanted to do like white flashing lights, and that was like his disorientation. But people who worked on the movie went into a black room and repeatedly like set the flash off to each other.
Oh, to see what
it would actually look like, and that's why they got that, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great effect. It's realistic, and like they set it up. There's a couple of beautiful shots in that sequence of Jimmy Stewart sitting by the window in like half silhouette. The cast is bright and shiny, but you can't see any of his face, and then Raymond Burr steps into the apartment into this like streak of harsh light that like just hits his eyes in this way that's just gorgeous
Very
to look
cool.
at.
However, Thorwald grabs Jeff and manages to push him out the open window as Jeff is yelling for help. Police officers enter the apartment as he falls to the ground. Other officers have run. This was in a great movie. This was a garbage 1950s special effect. Was Jimmy Stewart falling,
which was a great effect for the 1950s.
Absolutely,
I mean, it
sure,
was pre-color screen, and
I don't doubt it. But I think a better choice would have been like show him being dropped and then show him on the ground. Like the fact they showed him and he fell. Story, so it's not like a long dramatic fall they had to show. I'm sorry, I'm not giving notes to Alfred Hitchcock. It was just
I mean, they wanted to see his face. They wanted to.
Do you want to talk about your favorite fall face from?
No.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me know if you change your mind. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be over here. Police officers enter the apartment as he falls to the ground. Other officers have run over to break his fall. Thorwald confesses to the police soon afterward. A few days later, the heat has lifted. And,
like, immediately.
oh, my God.
Like, they look out the window, he's like, we got everything.
Yeah.
Which is like...
like Jimmy Stewart is still on the ground.
Yeah.
They're like, don't worry.
Yeah, like...
We got it.
We got a cap. But, like, I think part of it, too, was, like, clearly that Raymond Burr's character is dealing with a guilty conscience. Mm-hmm. And he's losing... Like, when he comes in... to the thing, he doesn't come in necessarily to attack Jimmy Stewart. He comes in with like,
"What do you want?
What do you want?
I don't have money.
Who are you? Why is she? Why did she get arrested? Why didn't she turn me in? You guys know.
Yeah.
What do you want from me?" And he's just panicky in this way that like could explain why he would just immediately confess. Mm-hmm. But it is just funny that like he's still laying on the ground and the guy leans out. He's like, "Yeah, we got everything." I mean, they needed. Obviously, to cap the movie.
They put a bow on it real well, and then it just fucking ends.
Yeah. Well, they cut back, and you realize his other leg is also broken now, and then they
a few days
over,
later, the heat was lifted, and Jeff rests peacefully in his wheelchair, now with casts on both legs. The lonely neighbor is chatting with the pianist in his apartment. The dancer's lover returns from the army. That was...
I mean... all of that ending stuff is just to show you
things aren't what they seem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think everybody like it's the old everybody's fighting a battle you don't know kind of thing. What you see on the surface isn't necessarily what it is.
Yeah, and so when Miss Torso, the dancer, when her beau comes home, I don't know if it's her boyfriend or her husband or whatever, he's like a couple inches shorter than her, and they hug, and she's like, "Oh my God, how are you?" He's like, "I'm hungry," and then goes to the fucking fridge. Like, Mikey, if you'd been away at war,
but I think that's it. Like, I don't think it's a happy ending for them. I think she was living her best life when he wasn't there.
Oh.
And then other people are like the drunk piano player guy who was just hobbling around all over, like always having parties, but always drunk, was living this socialite lifestyle.
Right. But he was miserable because he couldn't write.
But just to fight his own depression or loneliness or whatever. But he's also lonely and plays a song at one point, which is what Miss Lonely Hearts hears right before she tries to take pills.
Yeah.
And that's what gets her to stop.
Yeah.
So then you see the two of them together at the end, and she says something like, "You don't know what your music means to me," which I think is just
beautiful.
It's a beautiful,
beautiful.
I love that. But I think the one, like, the people you think have it terrible are
fine,
end up good, and then the one who's like living the best life and she's carefree and whatever, her husband comes home, and I don't think he's
so fucking wild that that's your take on it. I mean, it totally makes sense. That's just, to me, I pinned it more of like, oh, in the 1950s, women were expected to like cook for their men, not. And in my head, in the 1950s when they wrote these movies, women were happy to be subservient and like, oh, he came home, oh, good, she gets to cook for somebody. That's her fulfilling herself. That is a much more feminist take on she was happier when he was gone because men are garbage.
He was. I mean, at least I don't. You're not. That's, I don't know. That's what I got anyway.
Sure. The lonely neighbor is chatting with the pianist in his apartment. The dancer's lover returns home from the army. The couple whose dog was killed have a new dog, and the newly married couple are bickering. Lisa reclines in the daybed in Jeff's apartment wearing jeans and reading a book called Beyond the High Himalayas. As soon as Jeff falls asleep, Lisa puts the book down and happily opens up a fashion magazine. And that is the end of that movie. So I very much like that movie. I wish it was a little bit shorter, but I think that's just sort of my nature. I really don't want to watch anything more than 60 minutes almost ever.
Well, that was a perfect length.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I think, I mean, the hour 45, hour 50, I think is like the perfect movie length for most movies. Mm-hmm. Some movies can get away with much longer, but for the most part, anything over 2 hours.
Oh, like
I think
your
is
favorite
excessive.
movie, The Irishman?
Fuck you.
I Excuse me, and that was really rude to say to me.
Don't
your
say
wife.
that word in front of me.
Well, I'm Irish.
Yeah, but you're not the Irishman.
You don't know that about me. You know nothing about me.
Okay.
Barely even know me. Cool. So that was Rear Window. That was fun. It's always fun to do a movie that you actually like, as opposed to my favorite movie, The Village. What? You're holding your breath.
I'm just trying to figure out if I'd rather watch The Village or The Irishman.
To be fair, you could watch The Village twice in the length of time of The Irishman.
And it might still be better.
What?
I hate The Irishman so hard.
Yeah. So you would rather watch
The Village
twice.
Which
is, you would rather watch The Village Oh, I see. Huh. I mean, I think that's good because at least The Village has human women in it, which is probably good. I don't know. I didn't see The Irishman. I just assume a Scorsese movie did not have human women in it that say words.
Women heavy for sure, but there's some.
Were there? Would you say there's more women or more people of color?
Oh, women, for sure. I don't think there's anybody of color in Irishman.
Well, they didn't have people of color in the 60s. Everybody knows that. It's science.
Yeah, they didn't invent them yet.
Okay, cool. Well, that was Rear Window. It's Friday the 3rd. I think we're going to be in lockdown for, I don't know, the rest of our lives. So we're going to keep going with this until Mikey gets really annoyed with putting headphones on at 9 o'clock at night, which is his bedtime.
I wish we could look at our neighbors, but our back rear window looks out on a mire, and there's not a lot happening there.
No, not a lot. Sometimes coyotes are over there.
Yeah. The other day, my brother was there.
Yes. Okay, I have a story. So so we live in a row of townhomes, and the garages face this I mean, it's a row.
Call it a car hole.
Car hole, Michael. Is that a joke that I don't get?
It's from The Simpsons.
Is it? Car hole? What's that from?
When they're playing poker and Mo is says something about the garage and he's like, "Oh, you rich guy, call it a car hole or whatever."
So there's just this strip where it's just access to the little driveways that we have, and then there's a drainage ditch and then a mire. And Mikey's brother, Mike, story TK, he drives trucks for Anheuser-Busch?
No, it's Euclid Beverage.
Oh, for
it's beverage distribution.
And so he a lot of times drops off. He drives the truck and drops off shit for the mire. And one time and that's where I walk the dog. It's a little loop that I do. And one day I was walking Dottie, and I see this fucking and it's, I don't know, would you say 100 yards away?
Not even.
And I see a semi come up, and I just hear and I see the window go out, and I can just hear and I was like, I'm gonna
ow!
Yeah, oofa doofa. And I was like, yo. And then I was like, oh, I think Mike delivers there. So I don't have Mike's number. So I text Mikey, is your brother honking his horn at me right now? And he was like, yep, he is. And I was like, so it's not a murder? And you were like, unclear.
No, we don't know. But yeah, so he called me the other day. Was like, I assume you're working from home? I was like, yeah. And he's like, look out the window. And it was him.
He doesn't talk like that. I don't know why you do that.
Yeah, he does. Everybody does.
That's the one voice Mikey does.
Yeah, I do. Fucking New York guy.
And Jimmy Stewart.
And Jimmy Stewart. and Jimmy Stewart from fucking New York.
And you decided not to be a theater major? Because you have a pretty impressive arsenal of voices.
Yeah.
Can you do... Never mind. Anyway, so he dropped off some beer for you. Not for you.
Well, we picked it up later. We just had to pay Meyer for it.
Yeah. Fucking middleman Meyer. Okay. Well, you guys, you can always find me on Twitter at Blueberry, BLUEBURAE.
How do you think you would do in this particular quarantine situation?
Oh, Christ, Mikey, you're right.
When did this switch? Where I am the only one who can remember these.
Literally just now.
Or last time.
Was it last time too?
Yeah. I think the key is that you've been getting much, much drunker on these.
I'm genuinely not that drunk. We've been talking for an hour and 15 minutes, and this is my second podcast. In 2020 or in 1954? 1954, I would not do well. I did admire the fact that he was always in jammies, which I liked. I feel like a lot of times in in movies that date before like the 70s, even if like you're on your deathbed, you're like, I'm in a full suit, motherfucker.
Well, a lot of that was because that shit was so thick that it kept the smell in.
Ugh. Ew, yeah,
Because they didn't bathe in weeks.
Yeah, actually, what this made me think of was when you and I were first dating and when I was living in Lincoln Park, and we had air conditioning, like, in the living room, but not in the bedrooms. And I just had this very specific memory of one night that it was 1,000 degrees, and I had the window open and the box fan, and we were sleeping. Spoiler, we slept together before we got married. But we have a full-size bed. I had a full-size bed at the time that you were sleeping in, and we were both, like, sweating. Anytime, like, anybody's elbow would brush the other person's like, get the fuck away from me. Don't fucking touch me. And that's what it made me think of, like, how miserable you would be with, like, no AC.
Oh, God.
Not really box fan. Like, they didn't have electric fans the way we do. Oh, yeah.
Just open the window and hope there was a breeze at some point.
Oh, my God. And Grace Kelly had her hair, like, all the way done and a full face of makeup on. Bless her heart. She's so beautiful. Anyway, you know what? Not good, Michael.
And how does it make you feel about this current situation?
Better. Because, A, we have AC, which we don't even need yet. It's 65
and we
degrees
can
out.
watch great movies like Rear Window.
We can watch movies. And the other thing is, I guess in the front, people can see into our windows if we're just, like, parading around. But it's not the way Rear Window is shows New York apartments is very much like if like our kitchen was just the whole thing and the whole wall was windows and like.
Well, he's got giant like an obscenely large window.
Almost like they're fake apartments for a movie.
Yeah, to look out on a courtyard.
Yeah. No.
But that said, it's a kind of a nice courtyard. So like
it's a really lovely little courtyard
for like a New York or Manhattan apartments. Yeah.
Yeah. It was Greenwich Village, which I only know because of friends. I've only mentioned New York twice. Cool. Well, Mikey, we can follow you at Mikey Greif, MikeyGreiff.
On Twitter machines.
On the Twitter machines. Actually, you know what? If you're going to follow Mikey, follow him on Instagram. He's a very talented photographer, and you're Mr. Mikey G? Mr. _ Mikey G?
MR _ Mikey G.
He's a very talented photographer.
It's a lot of pictures of beer.
Right now, it's
because
just
that's all
pictures
I've
of
been
beer.
doing is drinking lots and lots of beer. But I am excited about how many different beers I've been able to
procure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked. I think just people have come and gone in our place so much and just left one beer.
A lot of them is going through that remainder selection of people brought a 6-pack and drank 5, that kind of thing.
We have those Modelo's and
I know.
We have those LaCroix for Jason.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you as always for tuning in. And hey, if you're listening to this, it means you support our Patreon, which really and truly means fucking everything. I think, as with everybody else, this is hitting us in the financial bones. So thank you for supporting us and continuing to do so. And we will talk to you next time.
Okay, bye.